Alright, like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This series is called Undercover. To infiltrate the life of a drug kingpin operating out of a campground, two undercover agents pose as a couple and move into the trailer next door. So to my knowledge so far is 2 seasons, 10 episodes apiece, 46 minutes an episode. So we're going to go over the first episode, Camp Zonadal. Spoiler alert, let's get it. So it starts out talking about the lovely town of Limburg. It's a quiet, peaceful town, except that it's not, because this town is like the Columbia of ecstasy. Shipping from here to New York, it gets ridiculous. So it starts off with these two Chinese men in a lab, and they're chained together, probably working on some product. Anyway, they get to beefing with each other. One of them stabs the other one, but the guy's still chained to your leg, so it's like, okay, how the fuck do you get out of there? So they end up cutting the guy's leg off and making an escape for it. Then we have a conversation with Rick and his judge. He doesn't have any proof, but they're trying to investigate this operation. They're trying to target a Dutchman by the name of Ferry Bowman. Apparently, he's one of the biggest ecstasy producers in all of Limburg. So after giving us some critical information, she litigates the project. Meanwhile, we got this guy in the bar, talking to this dude named Bob. And he goes outside with 2 other guys, sell their guns, 8 kilos of coke. But this guy rolling with the other 2 guys is getting paranoid. He makes a phone call to his man telling him to bring the money. But while he's making the phone call, his man is coming back out. He's not really talking to him on the phone, so who's he talking to? These motherfuckers smell setup. Right before they got to get busted, the cops swarm in and get these niggas. And then they arrested everybody. Meanwhile, back on this ranch, these 2 guys named Remo and Cliff work for Ferry Bowman. And this is Ferry Bowman. Apparently he's pissed off because the Chinaman was working for him. Now he finds out one's dead and one escaped. And this is right-hand man Phil. He says because they left the product, it's going to take about 2 more days to finish up. But until then, Remo's in a position to find the Chinaman. They go outside to talk, but what they don't know is somebody's taking pictures of him. Bob is getting the lowdown from his superiors about Ferry Bowman. See, Bob is actually an undercover agent. They're actually going to have him infiltrate the campsite as a new neighbor. They also assigned him this agent named Kim, and their position is to actually look like a real couple. But Bob is skeptical because the trailer they put him in is going to be right next to Ferry Bowman's spot. Meanwhile, these niggas looking for the Chinaman. Turns out they end up getting some random guy and they're going to put a chain on him. One reason this guy accepted because they told him it was going to be some type of photo shoot. So they had him put his head in a wheelbarrow to make it look like he was drowned. Now, if that's not the lamest way to say that you killed somebody, like, really? Well, anyway, he gives Ferry the photo and tells him, like, hey, why isn't his face turned around? He's like, it doesn't matter, boss. I got it done. You know what I'm saying? But, of course, Ferry's still skeptical about that shit. Anyway, we got this random-ass lady recycling liquor bottles, and Bob and Kim pull up to the campsite. They're introduced to this guy named Flip. He pretty much runs his part of the residing area and tells them it's actually illegal to rent out the camper that they're going to be staying in. But he tells them, don't worry about it. Just say it's in my name and everything's all good and gravy. Sketchy at best, because considering who they're trying to catch, they probably don't give a fuck. Flip says the camper used to be her mother's, but she died a long time ago. Later on, Ferry and his wife Danielle notices the new neighbors. Rick gets a phone call from Bob letting him know they checked in good. As he gets on the elevator, he runs into an old colleague with a prosthetic leg named Walter. They don't really talk about much other than his prosthetic leg, and then they go to their respective jobs. Bob and Kim are getting themselves ready for bed for the morning, but he got that look in the face staring at her like, man, what's good? But he don't do nothing about it and they go to sleep. Next day, the lady that was throwing away liquor bottles is out here singing to some old man, and Kim sees Bob working on the computer. Bob says he'll probably get some jogging done or whatever like that, get to know the area. Meanwhile, Danielle's going jogging with her friends, or so she thinks are her friends, but honestly, they really just find her annoying. She ends up going back in the house to find a comfort through her dog. Later on, we find a Chinaman in some hardware store, and he finds some pliers so he could get that chain off his leg. Meanwhile, this random guy is looking at him, and then he's about to make a phone call afterwards. Bob and Kim are outside chilling. Then all of a sudden, right out the blue, she goes over to Ferry's house. But Danielle's the only one home at the time, and she asks her for a screwdriver. I know, he's like, what the fuck? We're supposed to be undercover, dude. Like, really? So anyway, she gets a screwdriver. Danielle asks her to come over for the barbecue tomorrow, or later on. After that, she gets an earful from Bob. But she tells him we're invited to a barbecue, so, there you go. Meanwhile, we found out the guy that was looking at the Chinaman in the store actually works with Mr. Ferry. And he snatched them up for him, which means Remco lied to Ferry, he fucked up. And then later on, the cookout. So Danielle asks the girls they want to go jogging tomorrow, but one of them was like, yeah, she messed up her foot, she won't be able to jog for like a month. She's feeling sad. Rem asks for a steak, and Ferry's like, man, I gotta holler at you in a minute. You know what's coming. You do. You really do. Then all of a sudden the neighbors show up to bring back the screwdriver. They talk to everybody and get something to eat. Ferry finishes cooking. He tells Rookcomb to come with him while secretly sticking the screwdriver in his back. He takes him out in the wood to ask about the Chinaman, which he's still lying about. And then Phil brings him out the back. It's like, yeah, Remco, you fucked up. Stabbed him with a damn screwdriver. Oh, you thought that was it? And then bangs off on his dome, one-shot kill. Told Remco not to fuck around, you big dummy. They get back to the house. Bob says, you did good, Kim. Recognition. Next day, Phil has the Chinaman burying Remco. But while he's doing that, he bangs off on the Chinaman. He's done deal dead too. But as he goes back down to get the shovel, he notices there's a tracker on the bottom of his car. So as Danielle's going on for a ride, she notices her so-called friends are out jogging. They lied to her. She's running just fine. The disrespect. And she goes in her bed to cry because she ain't got no friends. But she don't want to tell Ferry about no petty shit like that because she knows how he gets down. Phil tells Ferry about the tracker, and now Ferry's starting to get suspicious about their new neighbors. Especially after Bob tells them they're going on a trip for about a week. Like a small vacation or something. Then they go to this parking lot and go about their separate ways for a week. They get back in their respective cars and go about business. We find out Bob really has a wife and 2 kids, and we find out Kim's all alone. She ends up going to a party later on, ends up talking to this guy, who happens to have some ecstasy. You're an agent that catches people selling ecstasy, but you're actually doing ecstasy. I guess you can't really know about your craft unless you experience it, right? Anyway, she follows this man to the bathroom and ends up giving the business. Next thing you know, Ferry and Phil are at this airport, and Phil tells about this undercover cop that he knows who has a lot of connections, and they're gonna try to figure out who's tracking them. So when the guy shows up, it ends up being Walter. What the fuck? And that's how the first episode ends. So like I said before, they got 2 seasons so far. Each season is 10 episodes apiece, 46 minutes an episode. But all in all, it looks promising, so I'm gonna check this shit out. Undercover on Netflix. Check it out. Like, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. Click these, all the easy, mister. Big. You got that slogan.